Today on Investigate TV Plus, it's a skill that could save a life, but few know how to properly do CPR. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. We examine the push to bring CPR to classrooms across the country.
Angelia brought to my attention that some of the procedures I was using were a little outdated.
I'm glad that I learned it.
Plus, uncovering the country's biggest scams.
I'm out of the money, no toolboxes, no nothing.
We show you how to be your own investigator to spot the red flags.
Then restaurant redemption. This woman's journey from having almost nothing.
$10 left in my name the day we opened up the business, so it was a real risk.
To serving up some of the best spuds with a side of second chances. In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
If a loved one stopped breathing and needed immediate medical attention, would you know what to do?
It's a scenario no one wants, but it's more likely than you may think. According to the CDC, more than 350,000 cardiac arrests happen outside the hospital every year, and about 9 in 10 of those cases turn deadly.
But when CPR is administered right away, experts say lives are saved.
Reporter Heather Graff explains the push to arm more people with that critical skill.
And why some believe starting young with mandatory CPR training in schools is the solution.
Angelia Bryant is a teen of many talents. Playing the piano on some days and basketball on others.
I want to play basketball in college.
But it's this use of her hands that might be the most impressive.
My fingers are interlocked here.
Angelia learned hands-only CPR, or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, during her freshman and sophomore years at Colonial Forge High School in Stafford, Virginia.
I took it serious because I was like, I know it's something I need to learn, but I never thought that I was actually ever gonna use it.
So just how soon did you have to put those skills to use?
The next year. So the next semester, I was like, it happened.
It was September of 2022 when Angelia's grandmother suffered a medical emergency, an apparent seizure at home.
Everybody's just standing there. My dad, he ran over to her and he had his phone in his hand, but he couldn't do anything. He was shaking.
I went to try to pick her up because I was gonna try to put her in the car, and she was limp. And I'm like, okay. I was like, Angelia, bring the car closer to the house. She was like, I'm gonna call 911. So she calls 911.
At that point, Keenan Bryant says his mother was unresponsive, and dispatchers instructed them to start performing CPR.
My dad was in the military, but he was in the military 20 years ago. So he had the 20 years ago CPR training. And I was looking at it, and my mind was going back to what I was learning in school, and I was like, that's not what that looked like.
Angelia brought to my attention that some of the procedures I was using were a little outdated, and she said, no, Dad, we do it like this now. And I'm like, okay, tracking, got it.
According to the American Heart Association, CPR can double or triple a person's chance of survival. And when you look at cardiac arrests that happen outside a hospital, AHA data shows more than 73% take place at home, 16% in public settings, and about 10% in nursing homes. Yet bystander CPR is administered in less than half of those cases.
It's a skill that we all should have.
And that's why the Heart Association believes every young person in this country should be taught CPR in high school.
And by having it be part of the curriculum and part of the requirements in a school environment, it really assures that at any point, if any of us suffer sudden cardiac arrest, there'll be somebody in our community, somebody around us that will have had CPR training.
And do you believe it would save lives?
I know that it'll save lives.
Jill Birnbaum is the Heart Association's Senior Vice President for Field Advocacy and says her team is trying to get all 50 states to pass legislation that would make CPR training a graduation requirement for students. The organization noting Alabama was the first to pass such a law back in 1984, followed by Iowa in 2008, with many others then following suit over the next decade, and Florida among the most recent to do so in 2021. But the AHA says there are 10 states, seen here in white, that still don't require CPR training in schools for all students.
In the states that remain, in some cases there are some legal barriers that just make it more difficult to determine the appropriate role of the state government in mandating something that happens locally.
She says they'll continue pushing to close the gaps and thinks the Access to AEDs Act, recently introduced in Congress, could help. Because while not a mandate, it would provide grant money to establish AED and CPR programs in public schools.
Make sure your arms stay locked. You have to put like a lot of force.
The training already required for high schoolers in Virginia, where Angelia lives.
I'm glad that I learned it.
And she says her family is proof it can make a difference.
Whew. It was scary.
Because this is Angelia's grandmother.
But I'm glad they were here.
Fully recovered thanks to her loved ones' quick thinking.
Especially Angelia, a very smart little girl. Young lady, I should say.
Grandma Charlesy still grateful.
All the schools should do that.
And at Colonial Forge High School,
we do 9th and 10th graders.
Got it.
Every year.
Angelia's CPR instructor is still in awe of her student.
She saved her grandma, and she was able to teach her family how to respond.
What did that mean to you as the CPR instructor?
That it's working. The training is working.
A teen of many talents and life-saving power in her hands.
If it's not a requirement, I don't know. My grandma might not be here.
Even if you live in one of the states where CPR courses are not required in schools, the American Heart Association says parents can still ask school leaders to offer optional training for students. The AHA also has training resources online, including a 60-second video that teaches hands-only CPR. Just go to heart.org/nation to check it out.
We want to go in-depth on an issue that can also affect anyone at any time. We're talking about scams.
2023 proved to be a record year for them. According to the Federal Trade Commission, in 2023, Americans lost a record $10 billion to scams, $1 billion more than the previous record set in 2022.
The top scams of 2023 were social media scams, investment scams, and coming in at number 1, impostor scams, which cost Americans $2.7 billion last year.
The FTC says an impostor scam involves anyone pretending to be someone they're not, from a well-known business to a bank, even a relative.
Usually a scam says potential scam or something like this, but it was actually somebody's name with a telephone number.
We'll show you how you can spot the signs, and we reveal how this grandma served one scammer a slice of humble pie.
He started like panicking, and he was like, "This is my job," and I was like, "This is your job? Scamming people? This is how you talk about you want to feed your family?"
Plus, another kind of fraud, this time found on social media.
Somebody needs to hear it because other people will fall for it.
What you need to know before you log on to protect your account and your money. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes.
Hello?
Scams targeting seniors are getting more sophisticated.
And data from the Federal Trade Commission says seniors are paying the price.
In 2023, Americans 80 and over typically lost $1,450, far more than other age groups.
For many seniors, few things are as precious as their grandchildren.
Scammers know this, and experts say they use it to their advantage.
Reporter Jen Pachano shows us how one scammer messed with the wrong grandma.
Krista Willis got a call like many other senior citizens have been getting lately.
Because usually a scam says potential scam or something like this, but it was actually somebody's name with a telephone number.
Really? Was it a local number?
Yes, it was a 216 local number.
Willis was shocked at what the man on the other line said.
He says, I'm the deputy somebody, and your grandson was in an accident. He's at fault, and you need to pay his bond for him to get out.
He asked her to wire $5,000 immediately. in order to keep her grandson, Eric, from being held in jail all weekend.
So grandparents are the targets because, quite frankly, in this instance, they have the money.
Susan Lacotte with the FBI in Cleveland says criminals are now using a playbook of tactics and tools after they connect via text or a phone call with a sympathetic grandparent who's compelled to help when they think their loved one is in trouble.
Well, maybe they're arrested, maybe they've been in an accident, or perhaps stranded on the side of the road and need money, and they need money now. And that's when the scam starts.
Lacotte says the scammers are even roping in rideshare drivers like Uber into these crimes, sending them to victims' homes to collect the cash or asking for the money to be wired, all while pressuring the grandparents with a sense of urgency.
Almost like, how can you live with yourself not giving me the money because your grandchild is going to be in jail for the weekend if you don't give me the money? That's just terrible.
But in Willis's case, this scammer was going after the wrong grandma.
And I'm like thinking to myself in the back of my head, this is going to be really cute because I know for sure my grandson is upstairs, but I'm going to go with this.
Knowing her 20-year-old grandson wasn't in a wreck or in jail, Willis was not going to fall for this, not only because she knew he was home, but because she's also a member of the Cuyahoga County Scam Squad. She kept him on the phone, trying to pry some information out of him.
I need to know your name so I can call you back. And he was like, well, you don't need to know that information.
He also didn't specify which sheriff's department he was allegedly calling from. Lacotte says Willis did the right thing by asking questions before acting and not giving up the requested funds right away.
That first call that you make should be to the person who is purported to be in trouble, to verify if they are in fact stranded on the side of the road, in the hospital, in jail, or have been detained or arrested or whatnot.
Willis didn't stop at trying to extract information from the scammer. She laid into him.
And then he started like panicking and he was like, this is my job. And I was like, this is your job? Scamming people? This is how you talk about you want to feed your family? I just, and then I just went off on him.
The tongue lashing went on for about 10 minutes, she said.
You're approaching seniors that's frail to get money. How is that okay? And he was like, well, you just don't understand. It's hard out here. And it's like, really? I'm like.
He gave you a sob story?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
In the absence of an over-the-phone scolding like Willis was able to pull off, Lacotte says reporting it, and quickly, is very important and could actually help get you your money back if you do end up wiring money to fraudsters.
If it is reported to ic3.gov within 3 days, there's about an 80% chance of us to recover most of those funds for the victim.
Lacotte says even if it's beyond the 3-day window or you're embarrassed because you've handed over cash to a rideshare driver, it's important to step up and file a report.
It helps the FBI connect the dots all across the country because it's important to know that these criminal actors, they're usually not working alone. This is a criminal network.
I'm just thinking in the back of my head, how many seniors fall for this and just give up their life savings for something like this? And they're just trying to help their grandchild.
I love that woman, and I love that she scolded the fraudster on the phone.
Yeah. I'm shocked how long they stayed on the phone together. I thought he would have eventually hung up on her.
I think he probably felt bad, and he knew he wasn't doing the right thing.
I hope he did feel bad.
Hopefully he quit that job, whatever it is. Yes. All right, experts say Krista did the right thing and reported the scam to her agency. If you think you've been the victim of any type of scam, you can report it to ftc.gov.
The Department of Justice offers an elder abuse resource roadmap that includes resources for seniors if they think they've been the target of a scam or fraud. Head to justice.gov/elderjustice and click on Financial Exploitation, then Federal Resource Roadmap. We also want to alert you to another kind of fraud.
I'm frustrated, but I want it to stop to where nobody else will have the same problem.
How this man got conned out of a purchase on Facebook Marketplace and how you can avoid the same fate.
Plus, meet the group giving people the tools for a successful life after prison.
The messages change from week to week. You're going to have to live with the decisions you make.
Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms.
From rejecting spam phone calls to deleting phishing emails, many people come across scams in their everyday lives.
They can seem annoying at best, but at worst, scammers can drain savings and upend people's lives. Dennis Corey is one of the thousands of Americans who reported a social media scam in 2023.
Just trying to figure out how I'm going to get out of it, how I'm going to get my bill paid off.
He says what started as an online friendship turned into him losing $200,000.
Emotionally drained, physically drained, psychologically drained.
Data shows scams that started on social media were the costliest for Americans, with $1.4 billion in losses in 2023 alone. And if you've ever spotted a deal on social media that's too good to be true, experts say it probably is.
Reporter Haley Tucker explains what to look out for so you can avoid getting scammed.
And you click on to the toolboxes, it pops up as a Lowe's toolbox.
Scrolling on Facebook, Larry Utes saw an ad for toolboxes for a very discounted price.
It was my birthday, and I thought, well, I'd really like to have them for my birthday present to me.
Typically $600, $700, $800, these toolboxes, supposedly from Lowe's, now are under $100. Larry bought two and immediately started seeing charges for other things.
And then a hair vite, cap, snow something, a bug something.
And you don't know what any of these are?
No, I've never heard of them before until now.
Here's what happens. Scammers make fake websites like these and advertise them on Facebook. This site looks legit. Larry says it even has links at the bottom to Lowe's policies, which made him think the site is legit. But look at the URL. It's nowhere close to Lowe's.com. As soon as Larry put his credit card information on the site, the scammer had control and stole hundreds of dollars.
And I'm out of the money, no toolboxes, no nothing. And I thought, well, somebody needs to hear it, because other people will fall for it. I'm frustrated, but I want to stop to where nobody else will have the same problem.
Be wary of Facebook ads. If the URL is not the same as what it claims, it most likely is a scam. And if prices are very discounted, again, it's most likely a scam.
We reached out to Meta and Lowe's about the posting. We have not heard back.
Still ahead, a recipe for success. How this woman went from prison to running a popular restaurant.
And I just tried to become the woman that I was meant to be. So when I got home, I just hit the ground running.
And the way she's inspiring others to take control of their own future.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download. Since 2018, more than 2.3 million Americans have had their cannabis convictions expunged.
A woman who once went to prison for selling marijuana now has a clean slate and took a chance at opening her dream restaurant.
Reporter David Custer shows us her very own story of redemption and revival.
We make everything from scratch. Add our own ingredients. I know a lot of love going to the food.
A lot of love from a woman who says she once didn't love herself.
I just wanted to be a different person because I knew I had been a decay on my community at one point. So I wanted to be a different woman when I came home.
A homecoming that was far from a celebration. Keisha Smith became the successful business owner of Spectacular Spuds out of necessity.
I was indicted, federal indicted back in 2006. I sold marijuana for a long time, right here in the Flint. And I was given, we were arrested. After we were indicted, I was given a 4.5 year, well, actually, they gave me 6.5 year sentence.
She didn't serve the entire sentence, let out early because she became a model prisoner. She took classes, mentored inmates, believing this was her moment to turn her life around.
And I just tried to become the woman that I was meant to be. So when I got home, I just hit the ground running.
Once out, Smith says she couldn't even get an entry-level job because once an employer learned about her felony conviction, her employment was denied. So she started her own catering business with the help of many and just pennies in her pocket.
$10 left in my name. the day we opened up the business. So it was a real risk.
The odds were against her. In fact, more than 40% released from prison will be back within a year. And because of this, a Mid-Michigan man who was on the other side is making it his life mission to give all ex-offenders a fighting chance.
We wanted to create this inviting atmosphere of learning and really giving an individual an opportunity to focus, and if they're serious, in getting their lives back on the right path.
Leon El-Alamin founded the MAID Institute, an organization that creates an environment where returning citizens are provided housing, education, job training, and the motivation to make a difference.
And then the messages change from week to week. You're going to have to live with the decisions you make.
Really wasn't too many programs that particularly address this population.
Each room is equipped with a refrigerator, bed, clean bedding.
At one time, it was like 700 people coming back to Flint and Genesee County from prison and jail, state and federal prison, or on the low end, maybe around about 500 each year. That's a lot of people.
Rules and regulations stipulate that they keep it clean at all times. Clean up behind themselves. It's part of being self-sufficient. It's part of the structure. It's part of order.
But 2018, the current, we done reached about 300 people. 85% are still doing well. The recidivism rate, haven't committed any crimes, things like that.
And Kisa believes if she can cook up an ounce of inspiration for someone craving a second chance, then she's doubling down on sharing the trials and tribulations that led to her own recipe for success.
It doesn't matter where you are. You have to just find that drive and keep going. Dreams definitely have no expiration date.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, severe turbulence can strike planes without notice, and research finds it's increasing due to climate change.
I don't get on a flight where I don't see the first officer bring it up.
We take an in-depth look at what airlines are doing to keep you safe on board.